Okay, picture this. You've been grinding for years. You packed your lunch instead of buying it. You said no to the Vegas trip with your friends. You drove the same beat-up Honda Civic while everyone else upgraded. You automated your savings. You cut the subscriptions. You did everything right. And then one day, you open your banking app and you see it. $50,000. And the feeling is, honestly, it's incredible. You screenshot it, maybe you text your mom, you feel like finally, you've made it. You're ahead of most Americans. You've got a real cushion now. You can breathe. And then you stop. Not like dramatically stop. You don't cancel your 401k or pull everything out. You just slow down. The urgency fades. You let yourself buy the nicer thing. You loosen up a little. You think, I've earned this. And not right there, that feeling of arrival, that is the most expensive mistake you will ever make. Because $50,000 is not the finish line. It's not even the halfway point. $50,000 is the trap. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why it's the single most dangerous number in your entire savings journey. And more importantly, what you need to do right now so it doesn't cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in your future. My name is Egan, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology of saving money. If you're someone who has been working hard to build up savings but feels like you've hit a wall, or maybe you're getting close to that $50,000 mark and you're starting to feel a little too comfortable, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. All right, let's get into it. Here's the thing. Before I tell you why $50,000 is dangerous, I have to acknowledge something first. Because if I don't, you're going to push back on me immediately. Getting to $50,000 in savings, that is a real achievement. Like, I mean that genuinely. According to the Federal Reserve's most recent survey of consumer finances, the median American savings account balance is somewhere around $8,000. $8,000, that's it. So if you've got $50,000 sitting somewhere, you are already dramatically ahead of the average person in this country. And the financial internet will celebrate you for it. Every money influencer, every personal finance subreddit, they will throw a virtual party for you when you hit 50K. You're doing amazing. Keep going. And look, that's not wrong. But here's what those same people almost never tell you. $50,000 is the exact number where most people stop growing. Not because they run out of money, not because something bad happens, but because $50,000 is just enough to feel financially secure without actually being financially secure. And that gap between feeling secure and being secure is where wealth goes to die. I want to prove this to you with real numbers, real psychology, and a math example so simple and so alarming that you're going to want a screenshot of your phone. But first, let's talk about why our brains are completely wired to fail at this exact moment. There's a concept in behavioral economics studied extensively by Nobel Prize-winning psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky called loss aversion. And the basic idea is this. Losing something hurts us twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. So losing $100 feels about twice as painful as gaining $100 feels pleasurable. Now, here's where this gets really interesting and really relevant to you. Loss aversion doesn't just apply to things you already have. It also applies to things you've worked really, really hard to build. When you have $500 saved, losing $200 of it hurts. But it's not devastating because you can rebuild $200 pretty quickly. But when you have $50,000 saved, suddenly the thought of losing any of it becomes almost paralyzing. That money feels precious. It feels like it defines you. And because of that, two dangerous things start happening inside your brain simultaneously. Number one, your risk tolerance drops. You become more conservative. You start holding cash instead of investing. You avoid any financial decision that might threaten what you've built, even smart ones. Number two, your ambition quietly turns off. See, the hunger that drove you to $50,000, that was fueled by scarcity. The feeling of not having enough was your rocket fuel. But once you hit $50,000, your brain files the emergency as resolved. It stops sounding the alarm. And without that alarm, most people just coast. Now, you might be thinking, Egan, that's fine. Coasting at $50,000 isn't the worst thing in the world, right? I'm still ahead. And, I hear you, but I need to show you the math, because the math is going to completely change how you see this. Let's run a scenario. Two people, same age, let's call them Alex and Jordan. Both are 30 years old. Both have worked hard and saved $50,000. Here's what's different. Alex hits $50,000 and decides that's enough of an emergency fund. They slow down the aggressive saving, they stop putting in the extra $500 a month they used to, they live a little more, spend a little more, and their $50,000 just sits in a high-yield savings account, earning around 4% annually. Jordan, on the other hand, recognizes the trap. Jordan keeps the same habits, keeps investing that extra $500 a month, and pushes hard to double that $50K to $100K. Then Jordan invests that $100,000 in a diversified index fund, averaging the historical market return of about 7% per year. Both are now 60 years old. 30 years have passed. Let's see what happens. Alex's $50,000 at 4% for 30 years, because it's just sitting in savings, not being invested, grows to $162,000. Sounds okay, right? Until you see Jordan's number. Jordan's $100,000 at 7% for 30 years grows to $761,000. That's not a typo. $761,000. The decision to stay at $50,000 versus pushing to $100,000, that gap cost Alex roughly $600,000 in retirement wealth. $600,000 just by feeling comfortable at the wrong moment. And here's what most people don't realize. The $50K to $100K journey is actually faster and easier than the $0 to $50K journey. Way easier, because by the time you're at $50K, you've already built the habits, you've already set up the systems, you've already done the hard psychological work. Momentum is on your side. All you have to do is not stop.
But here's the problem, and this is where the real danger lives. There's a concept in mountain climbing called a false summit. You're hiking up a mountain, exhausted, legs burning, and you look up and you can see the top. It's right there. You push through the pain, you keep climbing, and then you finally reach it. You throw your hands up, you made it. Except when you get there, you look up and realize that wasn't the top. There's still another 1,000 feet of mountain above you. The real summit is still way up there. And the cruel thing? The false summit is actually the most dangerous part of the climb. Not because of the terrain, but because of what it does to your mind. Your energy drops, your motivation collapses. Some people genuinely turn around and go back down because they feel cheated. $50,000 is the financial false summit. It looks like the top, it feels like the top, and when you realize it isn't, a lot of people turn around. They lifestyle inflate back down to zero. They start taking on car payments. They go on the vacation. They treat the emergency fund like a checking account. And 2 years later, they're looking at $28,000, wondering what happened. Look, I've talked to so many people who've been through this exact cycle. Save to $50K, feel good, slow down, spend some, watch it erode, panic, start over from $30K, grind back to $50K, feel good again, slow down again. It's a loop, and it is financially devastating. All right, so let's get specific, because it's not just one thing that happens at $50,000. It's actually a combination of 3 very specific traps that tend to trigger at this exact number, and understanding all 3 is how you avoid them. Trap number 1, the lifestyle inflation surge. Here's what typically happens in the months right after someone hits $50,000. They've been disciplined for so long, denying themselves so many things that the brain starts demanding a reward. And the brain is very persuasive. It says things like, "You've been so responsible. You deserve this. A slightly nicer apartment won't kill you. You can handle a car payment now. You earned this trip." And here's the thing. Those individual decisions might be fine in isolation, but they tend to come in clusters. The new apartment comes with higher utilities, the car payment comes with higher insurance, the trip goes on a credit card, and suddenly your fixed monthly expenses have jumped by $400, $500, $600, and you're not saving nearly as aggressively anymore. But you feel fine because you've still got that 50K sitting there. The danger isn't one big decision. The danger is 8 small decisions that all feel totally reasonable in the moment. Trap number 2, the investment paralysis. This one's subtle, and most people don't even recognize it happening to them. Before $50,000, most people are relatively comfortable being aggressive with their investing because, honestly, they don't have that much to lose. If the market drops 20%, their $20,000 becomes $16,000. That's a $4,000 paper loss. It stings, but it's survivable. They stay invested, they recover. But once you're at $50,000, a 20% market drop is a $10,000 paper loss, and that number starts to feel real in a way it didn't before. So people start getting cautious. They move money to cash. They pause their 401k contributions. They wait for the right time to invest. And by doing that, by pulling back exactly when they should be accelerating, they miss out on years of compound growth. According to a study from JP Morgan Asset Management, missing just the 10 best days in the market over a 20-year period cuts your overall return by more than half. Half! And the scariest part? Most of those best days happen right after the worst days, meaning the people who panicked and went to cash almost always miss the recovery. Trap number 3, the safety net delusion. This is maybe the most dangerous one because it feels like a wise trap. It isn't a trap. It feels like wisdom. Once people have $50,000, they start thinking of it as a permanent safety net. If anything goes wrong, I've got my 50K. And that sounds responsible, right? But here's what most people don't realize. $50,000 is not a safety net for a 30 or 40-year-old in America in 2025. It's barely an emergency fund. Think about it. A major medical event. The average American hospital stay costs around $11,000 per day for serious conditions. A job loss in a specialized field can mean 6 to 12 months of unemployment. A significant home repair, roof, foundation, HVAC, can run $15,000 to $30,000 easily. $50,000 is one bad year away from being $15,000. And $15,000 is not a safety net. $15,000 is a starting point. The brutal truth is that $50,000 feels like security, but it is actually one major life event away from being inadequate. Real security starts at $100,000. Not because it's a magic number, but because at $100,000 you have enough to absorb a serious blow and still have enough to keep compounding. Okay, so here's the part I actually care about the most, because I don't want to just scare you, I want to give you a real plan. So here are 4 specific things you can do right now if you're approaching $50,000 or you're already there. Step 1. Recognize the plateau before it happens. This is the single most powerful thing you can do. Awareness is the antidote to unconscious coasting. Right now, before you hit $50,000, or if you're already there, write this phrase somewhere, you'll see it. $50,000 is not the destination, it is the launch pad. Put it on a sticky note on your bathroom mirror, set it as your phone screensaver, whatever it takes, because the trap only works if you don't see it coming. Once you name it, it loses most of its power. Step number 2, define what comfortable actually means for you with math. One of the reasons $50,000 tricks people is because it's a big, round, impressive number, but it's not a meaningful number unless you've done the math. Here's what I want you to do. Take your current monthly expenses and multiply them by 6. That's your real emergency fund. 6 months of actual expenses. For most Americans, that's somewhere between $18,000 and $30,000. Put that amount in a high-yield savings account and label it hands off. Everything above that number, that's not your safety net. That's your growth capital. That's money that should be working. And suddenly, $50,000 looks completely different because a big chunk of it has a job to do. Step number 3, set an automated investment rule before you hit $50,000. Here's the thing about lifestyle inflation. It almost always happens automatically. The raise comes in and the spending adjusts upward without a single conscious decision. Your brain does it on autopilot. The solution is to automate the opposite behavior. Right now, today, set up an automatic investment contribution that increases by a small percentage every time your income increases. Most 401k plans let you auto-escalate contributions by 1% per year. Do that. If you get a raise, immediately redirect 50% of the after-tax increase into investments before it hits your checking account. The money you never see is the money you never miss. Step number 4. Reframe your goal from $50,000 saved to $100,000 invested. This is a subtle but crucial shift. The goal isn't to have a big number in a savings account. The goal is to have a big number working for you. When you reframe from saved to invested, the number that feels like success changes completely. At $100,000 invested at a 7% annual return, your money is generating approximately $7,000 per year in growth without you doing anything. That's almost $600 a month in passive growth. That's when the math starts to feel real. That's when you start to feel what compounding actually means in your life. $50,000 invested generates about $3,500 a year, $292 a month. Not nothing, but not life-changing. $100,000, you start to feel the engine, and the only way to get to $100,000 is to refuse to celebrate at $50,000. Look, I know this video might feel a little harsh, and I understand that because I know how hard it is to get to $50,000. I know the sacrifices you made. I know the Friday nights you stayed in, the trips you passed on, the times you said no when everyone else said yes. That work is real, and it matters. But here's what I want you to understand more than anything else. The version of you that got to $50,000, that person is incredible. They built something rare. Most Americans will never see that number. And the tragedy would be if that person, after all that work, sat down right at the edge where the real magic starts. Because here's what I haven't told you yet. The journey from $50,000 to $100,000, mathematically, psychologically, emotionally, is easier than the journey from $0 to $50,000, by a lot. You already have the habits, you already have the systems, you already have the proof that you can do it. The only thing standing between where you are now and $100,000 is the false belief that $50,000 is enough. It isn't. Not because you're not doing well, but because you deserve so much more than what $50,000 can actually give you. The real safety, the real freedom, the real version of I've made it, that lives on the other side of $100,000. And once you get there, we'll have a whole different conversation about what happens after that. But that's another video. This is where it gets really interesting because once you understand this trap exists, you can't unsee it. And the people who can't unsee it are the ones who end up actually changing their lives. If this video hit differently than you expected, if you're sitting here going, okay, I need to think about where I actually am right now,
Subscribe, like, comment.